Hello and welcome to That's So Craven, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. This is our Thursday night after dark show, streaming live on X and YouTube. And tonight we're going to be offering our final thoughts on the FA Cup game on Sunday against Man United at Old Trafford. And then we'll be looking forward to this Saturday's league match at the Amex at Brighton. So before we start, anyone who's watching live, please send in your comments and your questions, and we're just going to pick the best ones throughout the show and try and answer them as we go through it. So this is Dave here, and I'm joined, as usual, by the Thursday night MVP, Fulham legend, Mary Southgate. So Townsend, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's nice to be back with the OGs. Skibby and Dave, you are back, the duo. And I'm looking forward to talking all things Fulham and Man United. What a game. And yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up with Mike as well and having him on board.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And you're right. Yeah, it's the three OGs are back in the seat today because after a little hiatus, it's your Putney Perspective making his return. It's Skibby. So how are you, mate?
I'm very good. It's when you were doing your intro of, the ever-present and so on. I was like, oh, this isn't me. This is Mary. But no, it's great to be back. I mean, I've missed... I loved doing the Thursday nights. I loved the vibe of it. And don't get me wrong, Jack. I mean, I loved the afternoon sessions with you boys and sort of the reviews. But there's just something different about an evening where you got beer in hand and I'm not keeping one eye on the laptop in case HR are like, what the hell are you doing? Are you working? But no, it's great to be here. Great after a fantastic result. The magic of the cup. I'm still on a high. And yeah, I mean, and Mike's here. I mean, we already sort of touched upon that. So without further ado, Dave, do your thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're joined by a very special guest today from across the pond and representing Fulham Boston supporters group. It's Mike Levy. So Mike, absolute pleasure to have you. First of all, before we talk about Fulham Boston, can we talk a bit about you and, your journey with Fulham, how it all came about? And tell us about Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so happy to be on with y'all. This has been such a great time to do it, by the way, especially coming out of the cup. We're feeling great right now. I'm so optimistic about the rest of the season. So I've been I'm one of the co-founders of Fulham Boston. I grew up playing football. It was my favorite thing to do as a kid. I still play regularly now, despite my more advanced age. TC makes me feel so bad about myself every single day, just the way he makes everything look so easy. I can't even talk about what Willian makes me feel like. But we started Fulham Boston last January. A couple of us got around for the Carabao Cup, and we were like, wait, why can't we do this every single week? For me, though, my Fulham journey began about 8-9 years ago. As I said, I grew up playing footy. I had actually a connection to the West Ham system coming up, but I went over to the UK. I actually toured a bunch of ground, so I was right where the boys were and went to Old Trafford. I saw the London Stadium. I went to the place we're not supposed to talk about down the road from us. And then I also went to a couple of the smaller grounds, the New Den, a couple others. And I stumbled on Craven Cottage. I fell in love immediately, the location. And very important for me, actually, is the full America history that you start digging into and exists with that connection. We love that the stewards, the Khans, are American, but on top of that, you just look at the Americans who have played for the club and carried the colors and the badge. When we talk about whether it's Boca Negra, whether we talk about McBride, who was one of my favorite players growing up, whether we talk about Keller, whether we talk about the more recent ones like Ream and Robinson, and even the ones in the middle, the Eric Hindemans, the Luca De La Torres, who kind of held that mantle for full America in the middle. And I'll show off my hat. Our full America. I think it's 22 years strong, and I hope that we continue to do it in the future. Jedi is hopefully around for a long, long time, and we're starting to bring some people behind us too.
Yeah, fingers crossed that Jedi does stay that couple more years. I was already reading rumours today about Liverpool coming in with a derisory offer, but let's just put that down to paper talk for the time being. So just another question really on Fulham Boston, Mike. How many are there of you in total, and how often do you meet and how often do you kind of attend games?
Great question. So we watch every single week at a bar in Somerville, Massachusetts. It's right next to Boston. It's called the Old Magoon Saloon. We have over 20 registered members today, and we get a solid group of somewhere between 6 and 14 people every single match. It's a pretty big spread. But if you look at the second United match, the unfortunate Lisandro Martinez one, we have about 15 people there. But we have a consistently strong group. Everybody is incredibly well informed. Everybody has their own opinions on their favorites and the people who drive them crazy. It's one of those things where it's great to commiserate together and celebrate the wins. We actually have just started doing baby Guinness shots after every win. So you'll see on our post. That's not a kid-friendly one. We were looking for a black and white shot, and so. We commiserate when we lose, and we celebrate the wins. I will tell you, Brentford this season was probably my favorite game to celebrate afterwards.
Yeah, that was an awesome night, wasn't it?
Skippy, weren't you on the shots the other day after that win?
Do you know what? That's why I was laughing, because when I did that video for That's So Craven post Man United, it was a baby Guinness that I had. So, like, part of me was like, I was like, wait, am I from Boston? Is that the initiation? Am I now a member?
We'll walk you through the initiation rituals offline. I'm not sure how much of that is safe for the audience.
I mean, straight away, I've Googled Magoon Saloon, and I'm like, I want to do a match day here. I'm so in.
You're more than welcome. So what's really cool is, especially with the location of Boston, we've had people from other supporters groups in the U.S., some from Houston, some from D.C., some from New York come up. We've also had people come over who are over for a weekend from across the pond, from London, and want a place to watch. One of the coolest things is Boston has a ton of colleges. So we have a bunch of college students who are from the London area who are Fulham supporters who have found a home with us. So it's a really, really great place to be. We'd welcome you anytime. I have an extra bedroom.
There you go. That's look, we're really excited to have you on. We're really excited to talk about Fulham with you today. And I'm all about making baby Guinness the official drink of Fulham supporters.
I'm so in for that.
A great idea. So well done, Fulham Boston, bringing that to my attention. Right, Man United. Okay, for those that listen to Monday's show, you'd have heard Skibby and I probably talk enough about the Man United game. So I'm going to jump straight to Mary to get your thoughts, because we haven't heard your thoughts, your feelings, your review of the game. I just love to hear kind of how you're feeling about it now and what you thought of the match overall.
Well, I'm delighted that we predicted it right. I think you actually said it was going to go to penalties.
I'll take it. I don't remember that, but I'll take it.
Someone did. I don't know. Maybe it was. I'm sure you did. But anyway, delighted, obviously, with the win and getting through to the next round. I think it was probably quite a nervy game to start with for players and for fans. And I think we've seen that a little bit in the way that we were playing, a few like unforced errors, especially in the first half. I think Man United, if we're fair, probably had the better of the chances at the start. Not that they were very clear cut, but I think Fernandes, obviously his shot on the edge of the box. Good save from Leno, parried that one away. And yeah, I think it was just a bit of a nervy start. There was a lot riding on it from like past games, obviously 2 years ago, and what a revenge in TC's language. Absolute revenge done. But yeah, I think it was just a bit of an interesting first half. It probably would have been fair to go in 0-0, but I'm absolutely not complaining. I mean, that's what Man United did to us both times this season. They've gone and got the goal when perhaps actually it should have been us on the win-in. So yeah, what a corner. It's pretty much a replica of before.
Yeah.
With the flick on. So yeah, really happy with that. Bassi again flying with the goal scoring. Is he just going to be top goal scorer soon? Maybe. Maybe he's like a dark horse in there. Maybe Man United aren't expecting him to be on the end of that, and he's shot through. But yeah, delighted. I think it's such a good time to score. It's right behind, like the psychology of for both teams going in at half time, having just conceded or just scored, was massive. So yeah, in terms of like, if I just look at the first half there, what time to score. And I'm glad that we were the ones that got the 1-0 up when they've done that to us twice this season. Yeah,
that was really pleasing because, as you say, we hadn't created much else. There was that header from Lukic; it just went over the bar. But Yeah. And Mike, you guys must have been loving that moment when the goal went in.
Oh, absolutely incredible. And just before half two is just an amazing feeling. And that flick from Rodrigo is so underrated. I mean, the fact that he has to get over that back line, De Ligt, Maguire are no slouches in the air. So getting that over and Bassi having the wherewithal to make that back post run and hit that to just kind of push it along is just a fantastic way. And you know that definitely impacted the conversations in the locker room after the fact, because you go in, you have a little more energy. You're probably counting down the minutes a little bit more. And if you're Amorim, this obviously isn't a United podcast, but you are probably livid. You are probably breaking things, slamming your fist, and trying to get your boys as jarred up as possible.
Yeah, I agree. It's that was a real moment, game-changing moment, I think. So then, of course, the second half, after we came out of the blocks quite well, but then after about 70 minutes, Man United got themselves back in the game, Mary.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good goal. It's annoying to say it about Fernandes, but first time, left foot, bottom corner, it was a good goal. I think we probably could have defended it better down that side before it was crossed in. Great cross, but I don't think there's. I mean, Berger tried to come out to it, but it was a good finish. Can't deny that. We had a few chances, like you said, just before that. Smith Rowe had his chance before the goal. And then he had another one later on, didn't he? Which was a fingertip save, I think. So that was a shame that didn't go in. But what I liked about Smith Rowe's first chance was the way he carried the ball forward. I think we saw that in recent games. He's starting to get into the flow of it again, and he's carrying the ball quite well. And he did for that build-up. I know he didn't score, but the way he carried it, played it out to Robbo, and then was still there to be in the goal-scoring position, I thought was really good and really strong from him. So that was quite nice to see. But shame to concede that way. But it was a good goal.
I agree. I thought it was an excellent goal. Then it gets nervy, right? It's 1-1 at Old Trafford, and you're thinking, this could be same old story, and we managed to see it out 90 minutes, and then it's the dreaded extra time. I mean, what were you thinking?
So on the goal, by the way, I for some reason really hate myself and decided to go watch the opening day match against United. It looked really, really similar to the one that Xerxes scored against us in the first one. I wonder if that's something that, the team has been looking at and saying, hey, this might be a weakness for us. But, I'll be honest, I was pretty scared of PKs, but I actually loved the idea of us going into extra time, because you looked at who we had coming off the bench, the experience of Willian coming in, some fresh legs, Cess coming off the bench. And then you looked at who United had on the bench. I think it was 4 or 6 academy prospects were on the bench for them. They had kind of made the substitutions that they could make. And, a lot of people have talked about Obi from United actually having a really big impact on the game after the fact. And that's great. But if that's what United's bringing on, as opposed to, somebody who was previously sold by us for 25 million, I actually felt pretty good about the potential for that. And also just the dynamic switch up of going from somebody like Rodrigo, who I thought had a great, great game, to Raul, who gives us a different element, especially when the ball's at his feet. The things that he can create is just totally, totally different. So I don't want to say it too loudly. I guess I can say it a little louder now, but I was quietly a little confident about how we were going to do going in extra time.
Yeah. No, you're right. We did have more off the bench, in that, which just seems bizarre, but we even managed to get Cess on the right wing. And he nearly had a chance himself, Mary, didn't he, near the end?
Yeah, imagine the scenes if he'd gone and scored then. The scenes. But no, he didn't quite. But I just wanted to touch on the point about Jimenez as well. I thought it was really clever to bring him on. Start with Muniz. I think Muniz deserved it from recent performances. But thinking longer term, we then had Jimenez for penalties. Obviously it did, but if it had, like Marco didn't know at the time, if it was going to go to penalties, we've got him, who's very strong penalty taker. So I really like the fact that Muniz started and then Jimenez was able to come on for the extra time and like Mike said, what a bench we had. We've got Willian coming on, and we've got people that can still add to the game and change the game. And so I think that was a really positive position to be in.
Yeah.
But I mean, nothing prepares you for penalties.
Yeah, penalties is just, a bit of a lottery. The only thing that, we've had a few go forwards in recent times. I think of the Everton game last year. I think of Preston. I know we lost the Preston game, but we scored about 25 penalties in that penalty shootout. So we've had some practice, put it that way. Mike, come on. How are you, when you saw the penalties, how were you feeling? Did you start to feel that, we had a chance, based on the fact that we've got Raul on the pitch and Willian, as you said, and talk me through them. What was your favourite penalty?
Heart palpitations, absolutely losing my mind. I know you all mentioned it in the last episode. I actually watched the same YouTube video of seeing Berger hit those free kicks, and I was actually quietly excited to see him shoot it. But I have to say the two highlights for me, obviously the Jedi penalty, just so calm, just so cool. I almost think he's trying to look cool as he did it, which was absolutely great. But also, I don't know if you all have seen this video going around online of Raul starting to call out where people are shooting. He must be some sort of penalty savant or body language expert to just know where people are going to go. Because I think that's really the biggest thing is he's got to be the hero of this, not only scoring his, but then pointing to Leno each way to go. And then Leno saying, well, I went with my vibe. No, you went the way that Jimenez told you. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, you could kind of see Leno. It looked like he was acknowledging it as well. So I think there's definitely something in that. Mary, your favourite penalty out of that bunch?
Yeah, but Burgers, what a penalty that was.
Yeah,
right in the back. No hesitation, just went for it. But then same like Anthony Robinson, so cool and calm. Same as Willian. And then Jimenez, I had a quick look. He's only ever missed 2 penalties, I think, in his career. He's taken like 41 penalties and scored 39. So, I mean, what a stat that is. But yeah, I just think.
Next 5 now.
Yeah, I've probably jinxed it now, let's be honest. But sorry, everybody. I formally apologise when he next misses. But yeah, I think our penalties were really confident, really cool. So I think all of them were great penalties, to be quite honest. But Sanderberger's brilliant, top back of the net straight away.
And absolute scenes at the end on the pitch, the players, and you would have seen on X, various videos going around from Alex Iwobi's Snapchat. It just looked like the players really enjoyed that one, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see the camaraderie in the locker room. It's great to see everybody is really playing for each other. Everybody was so excited for Leno as well, and him having that incredible end of the match. That's really his moment. I am curious for all of you, by the way, who do you think would have taken our 5th penalty? Because I've heard a couple different options, and I thought it was really obvious, but I'm curious what y'all think.
Well, let's get Skibby involved in that, because I know he's been trying to figure that one out on our Discord group. So, Skibby, have you had any answers?
I have had mixed reviews, I think is the official answer. So, in the know guy seemed to think it was Smith Rowe. However, if you watch the players talking about their favourite penalties, I think Andreas Pereira actually hints at maybe it was Reedy. And in my eyes, I thought it was going to be Reedy. I think for the 5th penalty, you just needed that kind of level-headed leader of the team who just wouldn't really falter at the occasion. And I don't want to sort of dig him out. I think he's a fantastic player, but I do think that Smith Rowe, for me, has a bit of a fragile mentality at the moment. When I just think that a miss would have completely broken him. So we're now sort of slowly getting him back to where he can be. So I think for me, Reedy was the best choice. But I mean, if we're really sort of looking at other players, Bassi, I think, would be sky-high confidence, and the way that he's been marauding forward at recent times and taking pot shots at goal, and some of them are actually decent shots, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was him. But no, I think Harrison Reed, I think, is the 90% chance rate, I think. But is that who you guys would have wanted to see, though? Dave?
Well, I think Mary would have wanted to see Cess take it. I think she wanted the fairy tale ending. Am I right, Mary?
I'd be knee-sliding along with Cess. No, but I do think Reedy would have been the the best option, like Skivvy said, like more leadership and experience head on him.
Yeah. Okay, so look, fantastic result, and we now go forward to Brighton on Saturday. At the Amex, back to league action, and look, we've had a fantastic record against Brighton in recent years. In fact, I got Jack to put together this slide here for us. It shows the last 9 results where we're actually undefeated against Brighton.
Oh, now we do.
So without meaning to tempt fate, I just thought I'd highlight that. There's 5 wins in there, I believe, 4 draws. Is that right? So it's been a really we're a bit of a bogey team for them, and they struggle to get a result. Now that maybe some people might think that means something, others might say it doesn't. But Skibby, what's your thoughts heading into this one? You think it's going to be a tough game?
Absolutely. I think Brighton probably have one of the best managers in the league, if I'm honest. A very, very young rookie manager, but it's working for him. He doesn't seem to be faltering, and in a way that you see other young coaches do. Where I'm going to use Scott Parker as a great example because he was awful. But not taking responsibility, not really having an identity. Scott Parker got to around, I think, November and didn't know who his best 11 were. Things like that. I think this guy's come in, and you know what's really disrespectful? I don't actually know his name. I remember certain aspects, but that's the guy. But he came in, he said, this is the identity, this is how we're going to play, and it's working. And I think there have been some faltering moments. I think our last game with them is probably one of them, where I don't think Brighton played as well as they can, and I think they got caught out a little. He got out tactical by Marco Silva, I would say. And then there was elements with Forest when they lost 7-0. And you're thinking, well, that's crazy. This Brighton team are challenging for Champions League right now, but yet they're losing 7-0 to Forest, who, fair enough, they were sitting in the top 3 at the time. But as we've rightly seen, they're not a top 4 team. They're not even a top 6 team. They're god-awful. But, there was some key issues that I saw in that game, which was, they had Hinchelwood, young 20-year-old, sitting as sort of a defensive midfielder on his own, and was just being overrun in the middle. And, he just didn't... It's easy for us watching on TV and saying, Jesus Christ, that poor kid. But from the sideline, he just didn't react quick enough. And I think it's just one of those things. So, I mean, I'm impressed with Brighton. I got in trouble in the last Brighton podcast because my mum's a Brighton fan. So I think I said that they were woeful and it'll be an easy win and things like that. And yeah, if I wasn't, a mortgage paying 30-year-old man, I would have been grounded. But no, I think it's going to be a really tough game. Brighton, Amex is a tough place to go. They've got quality, and you've seen that. They're not in the top 8, just because, for no reason, right? They are a very good footballing side. They've got an identity. They've got some quality players like Mitoma, Minte, and João Pedro. I think they just got quality across the pitch. So it's going to be a very, very tough game, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think I agree that you look back at the game back in December, and they didn't play particularly well that day. We actually played pretty good, I thought. But there have been other occasions where we've been to the Amex and done a bit of a smash and grab. I mean, we're all going to remember the Manuel Solomon goal in the last minute a couple of seasons ago that came out of nowhere. I think there's a couple of things that maybe concern me a little bit about this one. One is, I think they're very much aware of the fact that we've been a bogey team to them, and they might have a little bit extra between their teeth this Saturday to try and put that right. And I think the other thing is, as well, is I'm always a bit concerned when we've, having to come down from such a high on Sunday of this great result that we've had, and now having to refocus on the league. That's not easy, getting everyone to think, move back into the league mode, especially when we know we're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. So it's really important that the players, don't lose focus on the league now that we're having this run and we continue to push for Europe. That'd be my concern, Mary. I mean, how do you see this game?
Yeah, I think the same as you've both said, it's going to be a tough game. They're only 1 point ahead of us, so that says quite a lot. They're in good form. They have been, other than the Forest game, which was mad, but I think that was just a bit of a blip. They're in good form, but then again, so are we in our away form. We've won, I think, is it 4 out of our last 5 Premier League games?
Yeah, we're also like one of the last 4 away games in all competitions.
Yeah, so like our away form's really positive at the moment. Don't know how many fans we've got going down there actually, but I think we stand a really good chance. But I think it's going to be really tough. And like Skibby said, Pedro up top. I think he's their top goal scorer, so he's one to watch. They've got Welbeck that scored the winner in the last 2 games that they've played, so he's one that can come on and make a difference, and someone that we need to be quite aware of. But I think they're quite well established with their formation that they're going to at the moment. They're quite settled with that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be really tough. I think it is going to be tough.
And it's going to, as everyone kind of thinks it's going to be a tough game. I trust you feel similar.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because we're not going to have Lukic for the game, which is a big loss for us. I'm going to be really, really curious how Marco sets up. And especially you've highlighted, these games that we've had recently against Brighton, they've all been pretty tight. Even the ones where, we've scored a couple goals past them. They've all been tight games. That being said, and I'm sure we'll get onto this in a minute, I think the 2 things I'm most interested to see is the cup games were much cagier performances. It's a single elimination tournament. I think the team is ready to stretch their legs and probably try to go on the offensive a little bit. I'm sure Brighton feels the same way. And then especially with Lukic out and us being away, which formation are we going to play? Are we going to play 5 at the back? Are we going to play, the standard 4-2-3-1? I'll actually be really curious to see, and I'm curious to get all your perspectives as well.
I think it's a great question, really, because there's lots of options for Marco. As you said, we've deployed the 5 at the back recently. But then on Sunday we went back to the 4, which I think is probably our, where we're best in the 4. But it's nice to have that 5 in the locker when we need it. And also injuries may dictate, like the Wolves game, that we might need to mix things around because Adama's going to be out for this one by the looks of things. I know Silva said he's got another day of training, but it looks unlikely that he'll feature. We've got Smith Rowe still kind of coming back from a knock. And as you said, massive blow losing Lukic. So it is a real kind of dilemma. Mary, what kind of changes are you expecting to see? And I guess it's, you could talk about what you'd like to see, but also what you think might happen. I think that's always a good little.
Yeah, it's 2 different things. I suppose,
it is 2 different questions.
Yeah. I think we'll see Harrison Reed come in for Lukic. I've got a lot of time for Reed. I really like him in the middle. I think he's an absolute terrier, and he's not scared to go in for a tackle, and he's I think he'd be really good to put in there. So I can see Reed going in. And then Pereira playing in the number 10. I think we're past the point of him playing number 8 now, and he needs to be just a number 10, and only be on the pitch if he's doing that, which then means Smith Rowe will be off. So I think the midfield, I can see it being Pereira, Reed, and Sander Berger. But the question is, are we going, like you said, 5 at the back or 4? Because if we've got, with all the injuries, I can see us doing 5 and then having Iwobi and Muniz up top, or Muniz and Jimenez. Sorry, what did I just say? Did I just say the same 2 twice?
No. You said Muniz and Jimenez, or Muniz and Iwobi. Yeah.
But I want to see Iwobi on the pitch. So I part of me thinks we might go 5 at the back.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Reed will come in. Reed came on for Lukic on Sunday, and I actually think Pereira's just kind of doing really, really well in the 10 at the moment, and I don't think Marco will disturb that at the moment. And I was a bit critical of the whole ESR and Pereira in the same midfield at the start of the season. I don't think we'll see a return to that, but of course, everything's possible with Marco. You're right. The wings is going to be interesting. There's options there still. Is Willian fit enough is a question. Could has he done enough to get an opportunity? Or will we see, Skibby, maybe ESR take the left wing spot like he did on Sunday? That's if we play 4, by the way.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it makes sense if we were to try and accommodate Smith Rowe. I think the only thing that I would take to this game is they are going to be set up very similar to Crystal Palace in a way that they will sit in their holes. They're not a possession-based team. They like to counter-attack. They like to catch you on the break. And I just think that if we do go with a 4 at the back, so the 4-2-3-1 with Pereira in centre mid potentially. I just feel like they're going to know about the absence of Lukic. We're just going to get overrun. We're just going to get caught out too many times without that protection. So I think the best option going forward is probably that 5 at the back. Just it will play it will play against what they're going to set up like. It's just going to be a very dull game if we do that, in my opinion, because they will sit in their holes. We're going to sit in our holes. There's going to be a battle in midfield. And that's probably about it. And then there's probably got 0-0 written all over it. But I mean, if I was Marco, and you talk about us looking forward to the FA Cup as well. I mean, don't forget Brighton are in the same boat as well. They've got their eyes on a quarter final at the end of the month. So, they're in the same dilemma of do we push now for Europe or do we save ourselves for the biggest game of going to Wembley of our careers potentially. So it's on both sides. But I mean, my heart says let's get at them, let's get up that table, let's keep trying to solidify that European spot. And by doing that, I think we would need to go for the 4-2-3-1 with Reedy coming in, Pereira like you say. And I think Cess deserves a run. I think, given his cameo at Old Trafford and the goals that he scored against Wolves, I think with Iwobi potentially, this is the fantastic thing, right? You could have inverted wingers for both of them, so you could have Sessegnon on the right and Iwobi on the left, or you can swap them over and give them they're basically on their natural foot, basically. But I'm not against Smith Rowe if he's fit, coming in on that left-hand side, because we've seen it time and time again, and it was one of my absolute bugbears this season, which was he hugs the touchline with the winger and cuts in. And I'm like, that's a fantastic move for a winger, but not for your number 10. And I just love the grit and determination, and he just does all the dirty work, Pereira. So I just think he's a fantastic option to have in that 10, especially against a Brighton team who we saw in the home game were quite fragile, playing out from the back. I think the goalkeeper played it straight to us. I think it was Iwobi, wasn't it?
Yep.
So I think that's something to play into our hands, that where Pereira, a midfield of Berger, Pereira and Reed will be high press, terrorise them and try and win the ball back high up the pitch, which I'd love to see. So yeah, heart says, 4 at the back, but my head says 5 at the back, play for the draw.
So let me ask you all. Yeah, I was going to ask you all. I have a little bit of, maybe this is a little bit too much Claudio Ranieri Tinkerman going on in my head right now.
Oh, get out.
But I would absolutely
Straight away.
love. I'm just putting this out here. I would love to see a 5 at the back. And I love the midfield that you just gave us, Skibby, except for part of me is a little concerned if they are going to try to play the counterattack that we could use a little more of a calm, cooler head in the midfield and maybe let Reed come off the bench and actually move Iwobi next to Berger and then have ESR playing. I know we've just talked about how ESR and Pereira can't play together in the same midfield, but I'd love to see the two of them actually playing off a target man striker and then having that midfield 3 be or midfield 4 essentially of 2 slightly ahead of Smith Rowe and Pereira with Berger and Iwobi holding in behind. And that allows for the overlaps for the wingbacks still. So I'd love to see that. I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are, and you then have to pick which back three you want. I assume Diop would slot in, but I think that could be a really cool setup against a team that likes to counter.
It's an interesting point. I think there's been talk earlier in the season about could Iwobi play the 8. I think he likes to play central. He's been very honest about that in interviews in the past. Mary, could you see that scenario, or do you think that Marco's kind of, relies on Iwobi to provide some width and, help us build attacks in the wide areas?
I think Marco likes Iwobi out wide. But I'm sure there has been times when Iwobi has dropped in.
Yeah, there has.
There, so we know that Marco can be flexible with that, but I think we won't see that. I think Iwobi would be out wide, but like you touched on earlier, Dave, I wonder if it's an opportunity for Cess to come in. If we play him 4 at the back, then can we have Cess out on the left maybe and Iwobi on the right? So I do think there's a fair few options for where Iwobi could go, but I don't feel like that will be the one.
Yeah.
But I can see the benefit of him being there. Which, I mean, touching on Iwobi, did anyone see that he loves a bit of five-a-side?
Yeah.
Do you know what?
Really
I'm not having that for a second. Because if I'm playing five-a-side, right, and someone comes in dressed up like a ninja, like he called out, and I'm not being funny, the levels. So this is a really stupid, humble brag, by the way, but I played in a five-a-side game against Darren Eadie, if you remember him. He used to play for Norwich years ago.
Yeah, I know.
He crocked his knee, and I was 21, 20 at the time, and I'm like, right, I got the legs on this guy. He was still levels above me, right? So this guy, who was in his 40s at the time, was running rings around me, 20, best shape I've ever been in my life, right? So if a guy walks up and into your five-a-side game, dressed to his eyes like a ninja, and he is going to be absolute levels, and when I speak levels above everyone else, I'd walk off. There's no chance that he's going off oh yeah, people just call me Jeff and all that. No, people know who you are. Yeah. Or they're gonna be guessing that something's up. I don't know.
But he said he
was so nonchalant.
He said he didn't play league games. He just played with his friends, so that makes it a little bit more believable. But I thought it was really interesting that Marco said that he got asked about it in the press conference, head of Man United.
Oh, did he?
And he was like, Alex knows that he shouldn't be playing there. I'd rather he didn't. And I just wonder if maybe words behind the scene went on after that. Maybe he let a little bit too much away in that interview.
Well, there's a quick tangent about there's this legend in Brooklyn, New York, that Timothy Weah, when he was breaking in, this was probably 7-8 years ago, would just show up to pick up games at the Chelsea Piers and just play with his brother and a bunch of random people. So might be a bit of that. Could be.
Joe, as well, on your point, just going back to your point there, Mark, because when you said about Iwobi playing centre, and in this game at the weekend, and then Mary mentioned that I think I've seen him in play centre already this season, I suddenly thought, did he play centre in the home match? I've had a look back, and he
against
did.
Brighton,
I think he played centre mid. He played next to Sander Berger. So maybe there's something in this.
And he got 2 goals, didn't he?
Yeah, he got 2 goals as well. So, we lined up basically in a 4 at the back. Iwobi was next to Berger, and then we had Harry Wilson on the right, Nelson on the left, and Smith Rowe in the 10. Now, obviously, we've got injuries to 2 of those players, so it'll be a bit of a shuffle. But, Marco sometimes, he'll reflect on who's done well against teams in the past. I think we've seen him do that with Muniz and Rao. Maybe that's not a terrible shout. It'd certainly be a surprise, but I totally see the logic in it. If that's anything to go by. But right, it's prediction time, guys. I want to hear what you think we're going to get out of this one. Let's start with you, Mate. How are you feeling? Are you positive, or are you kind of nervous at the as I mentioned, come down from Sunday and maybe Brighton have a bit between their teeth, or do you just believe in that away form and that momentum that we have at the moment?
For me, I don't think we're going to lose. Part of me thinks it could be a draw. We've hardly kept any clean sheets this year. I think only a couple. I think this year
Mm.
in the last like in a while. So I'm going to go with 2-2. I think there's goals in it. I think it'll be close. And unfortunately, I think we're going to concede. But I think it's going to be a good game. I am really interested in how we set up. I do think we'll possibly go with 5 at the back.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm really interested in personnel as well with that. But I am going to go 2-2, which I don't think, looking at the last 9 games, we haven't had a 2-2 for a long time. So
No, that's true. Skibby?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit cagey. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I don't think, like Mary said, we're not very good at keeping clean sheets, so we'll concede. I just think that Brighton have too much about them to concede too many goals. I think they've done quite well this year, especially defensively, apart from against us. But I just think a home game for them, they'll be up for it. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, much the same as last season, I believe. Polina's got the equaliser, didn't he, in that one?
That's right.
Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be a little more open. We have to remember Brighton's not going to be playing with a recognized right back this week, actually, because Tarek Lamptey is out with a red card. Van Heck, I believe, is coming back from injury right now. So I don't really know who they're playing back there. I like that everybody's predicting draws. I'm going to be a bit of an optimist. I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-2 win. I think we're going to come out. We're going to have some goals. We haven't scored 3 goals in a decent amount of time. And Mary is 100% right. We don't really keep clean sheets particularly. So I could see this being both teams, having had long games, there being some sloppy play in there and a lot of transition goals.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I think you know what? I'm a little worried, if I'm honest. Sometimes, as I say, you come off these big wins like Sunday, and it's really hard to kind of get focused again on the next one. So I'm a little bit worried. The optimist in me says a draw, and I'd take a draw, to be honest. I think that would be a good result of the Amex. So I'd take a point, and I don't think there'll be as many goals in it as Mary does. I think it might be a 1-1 like Skibby, maybe even a 0-0. But my worry is this could be one that's a difficult afternoon, and I really hope I'm wrong about it. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I think what I'm most looking forward to, as you've all kind of alluded to, is the lineup and the personnel and how we're going to tackle this one. It's quite exciting, actually. This gives other players an opportunity when players get injured, or suspended. So yeah, that will be one to look forward to. So after that, we've got quite a tricky run. Just pulling that one up now. So we got the Spurs game at home, which is next Saturday. Spurs have obviously had, their problems this year, but it won't be easy. Our home form's not been particularly good. So that's another tricky one. We now know that Crystal Palace will be on Saturday, the 29th, and it will be a 12:15 kickoff. That's going to be an early morning for you guys, Mike, if you're watching it over there. But I know you're thinking and hoping you might be able to come over for this one.
I'm thinking about it. I'm hoping I can, but
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to our home bar, Old Lagoon Saloon, has been awesome at accommodating these fixtures, especially, some of the times they'll have to open the bar a little bit early. They are incredibly accommodating. They are fantastic to us, and hopefully they're okay with us maybe opening the bar up just a little bit earlier for that game.
And they're licensed to sell alcohol. You're going to be able to have that baby Guinness at like 11 a.m.
11 a.m. on a Sunday. There's actually an obscure Boston law that you are not allowed to sell alcohol before 11 a.m. on Sunday. So might be an 11:05 one for us.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's a tough run, Mary, right? I mean, then we've got Arsenal, then we've got Liverpool. I mean, on paper, it looks tough.
Yeah, it does. We know Arsenal, well, they had a big win the other day, but they're lacking a little bit up top. But yeah, on paper, tough game. So what we know all season, what we think is going to happen doesn't always happen. And we seem to play better against the tougher teams and maybe drop a little bit or struggle against the lower teams. So I think It's really
Gonna
hard to
struggle against
call.
Spurs then.
Yeah. It's really hard to call because I think we turn up actually better against the bigger teams.
So it's been proven. I remember like back in November, we were looking at a run and it included like Brighton, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, and we went unbeaten. So that gives you hope, Skibby, right?
Oh, hugely. I mean, the Spurs one, I'm not too fussed about. I think that's. I'm not even just saying it to rile them up. I mean, I think they've just lost tonight. AZ Alkmaar, they've lost a ridiculous own goal, I believe. So they're just in pieces. They just can't get going, and I feel for them. But no, I think it's the running, right?
Mm.
It's unfortunate that Arsenal really aren't part of the title race anymore, because normally that's about the time when they're like, right, we're only 3 points off top, and then they start to choke, and they've already choked. So we don't really have that to look forward to. And then Liverpool may have taken their foot off the gas by that point. I mean, they've got Champions League to play for. They're nearly 10 points clear, so they're going to be more than happy. So I think, if anything, for Arsenal and Liverpool in that kind of run, they're going to be looking at us and seeing that Fulham have a lot to play for still. I mean, we're like, look at it, we're 4 points off, because the Champions League apparently is going to fifth this year. So we're 4 points off Champions League. We've got huge amounts to play for. I mean, yeah, we got the FA Cup still going on, but I mean, Liverpool still have Champions League and stuff. But we're not, sitting where Man United, Spurs are, where we're safe, but we can't really get too far up the pitch. Therefore, we've got nothing to play for. The boys are going to be up for this. And there is a belief that we've set at the beginning of the season, which is we can tangle with the best of them. I mean, for some reason, we keep dropping points against the worst teams. But that being said, we are going toe-to-toe with Arsenal. We are going toe-to-toe with City and lost narrowly. Liverpool, we gave them a hell of a scare, I believe. So, I mean, they're going to be coming into this game quite anxious, I would say. And it's a really awkward place for them to come to. It's not the biggest pitch. The run-offs are tiny. They hate coming here. But, we work it to our favour. And who knows? We could get another unbeaten run. I'm looking forward to it. I think the rest of the team are. And I mean, you look at the snap. It sounds really millennial of me, but you look at the Snapchat stories, you look at the Instagram stories, and this team is together. This team believes that they can beat anyone, and that is flowing through to the fans as well. So bring it on. Yeah,
the mentality has been so different this year. It's just been like nothing I've seen before. And as you've both said, going to these big grounds, nothing seems to scare us anymore. And it just makes you think we've got a chance in all these games. Mike,
we've played away, haven't we? We've done, or have we got to go Emirates?
No, we're going to Emirates. Yeah, we played them at home already. We drew 1-1. But yeah, Mike, you reckon if we can get through this period and just still be in the running of Europe, we're going to have a real chance, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going to lie, by the way. I am so looking forward to the Spurs game out of all of them, and I know this is controversial. We played them right before St. Patrick's Day. I believe it was last season, and that's where we absolutely routed them. Yeah. And Boston is a big town for St. Patrick's Day, so it'd be a great way to kick off the celebrations with a nice another nice routing of Spurs. But yeah, 100%. If we can take points, and I don't exactly know how many that we need to take, but if we can take points here and there, a point off Liverpool, a point off Arsenal, and a point off Brighton, and then win against Spurs, that's a real run that keeps us in and keeps the momentum on our side. Spurs are not going to be a team that we can just roll over. You can see it on the table right now. Their goal difference is insane for a team that's only 13th in the league. So there's definitely going to be goals in that game. There's definitely going to be some fireworks, but I think Fulham can go with the best of them. This game against Brighton is going to be really, really important. And, if we sneak an extra win in there, I mean, everything is gravy. We have everything to play for, as Skibby said. Why not make the little run into the Champions League? Let's see. We're only 4 points away. And, it'd be great to pip that lot up the road for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we went on air tonight, Skibby asked if there was any questions, and we got some from the X community. So, Skibby, do you want to run them through them, and we can see if we can answer them between us?
We did, and do you know what? This is one of my favourite questions, because it's one that I think we've asked internally, but never on the podcast. But Graying Sideburns, Brian, thank you very much for your question, says, would you rather make the final of the FA Cup or get into the Conference League? Mary.
Well, I've never been to an FA Cup final, so I would like to be there and I'd like to win it. And it just gives me like memories of being at Wembley in the playoffs and the emotions of that. And that was the best day that I've been at, like that Wembley day, with the white wall and just the whole emotion. So I would really like another experience like that. It was so good. Just bringing back memories right now. I'm feeling. I just remember how hot that day was as well.
It was glorious.
Yeah. Blimey, that was a scorcher. I'm thinking. It's a really good question, by the way, because there's just so much merit to both. I mean, with one of them, you go to Wembley twice because you get to go to the semis and the final, and we win one of them. So, that's to win at Wembley is always, really magical. And we've only done that a few times, as Mary said. But then, next season to have a European campaign and travel around to all these, all these nations to watch Fulham. And we'd have a real chance in that tournament as well, I think. It's a real tricky one. I think I'm going to side with Mary on this one. What about you, Mike?
I gotta be boring and say I think I agree with you. I want the cup. Let's take the flip of the coin. Let's get the bigger tournament if we can, and let's see how much Fulham can do in Europe. I will say I've met Brian at the Fulham game when they came over to the US about 2 years ago in Baltimore, and or in DC. That was an incredible. He's an awesome guy. Great experience. Brian, if you're listening, what's going on, man? But yeah, I would definitely say that we absolutely should be dreaming of another cup run. Let's see what happens. Let's get the silverware. I mean, I want to see that. I'm not a tattoo guy, but I've heard a lot of people coming up with creative ideas for a Fulham 2025 FA Cup winners tattoo.
What about you, Skippy, then?
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't Sam's idea, was it?
I don't think so.
It was Sam Barense's matching That's So Craven FA Cup winners tattoos. I think you mentioned it on the last one, but yeah, watch this space. We'll send out a poll of who wants to be in it if it comes to play. But no, for me, just the feeling of the FA Cup. It's been it's just a huge competition. It's a shame that it's fallen off as much as it has in recent years, but growing up, the FA Cup was the one, the coverage starting at midday for like a 4 p.m. kickoff and, just so much buzz around it. I'd love to win the FA Cup. Even just get to the final would be fantastic. But, it's a double-edged sword because, well, not double-edged sword, but two birds, one stone, because you win the cup, you're in Europe. So happy days. But interestingly, though, Brian does say, for me, it's Europe. I want to keep all of our players, and even though I don't feel like I don't have the squad to compete right now, I do think it'll be our only chance in doing so. So for Brian to say he prefers Europe has gone against the pod, which I found very interesting. But each to their own. Ken asks, how does Marco feel about playing Arsenal so soon after the cup against Palace? So I guess we can't really answer for Marco, but how do we feel about playing Arsenal so soon after the cup against Palace? Do you think it would be a negative or a positive? Dave, I guess you're in deep thought. I'll go to you.
I am in deep thought. So Arsenal will have the weekend off, or will they have a game on that weekend?
I believe they'll have the weekend off.
Right, so they'll have the weekend off. That doesn't go in our favour, really. Also, it's a Saturday game, so there's enough time for us to turn it, to get ready for a Wednesday night match. I think the problem is that we're playing 3 really tough teams in a row, isn't it? So we've got Palace on the Saturday, 12:15, Arsenal on the Tuesday night. Is that right? I think it's the Tuesday, actually. Yeah. And then Liverpool on the Saturday or Sunday to be confirmed, depending on Europe. It's a really, really tough little period, and we might have to mix, rest some players for the Arsenal game just to kind of get through that period. So I don't think he'll be particularly happy about it, but I guess it just is what it is.
Yeah. And Mary, do you feel, or Mike, go ahead.
I was going to say it's really tricky because Marco's got his eye on both the FA Cup and the league, and when you've got so many like important games in such a short period, he's got a lot of things to consider, like rotation. Who would he rotate? Would we need to change formation to make sure people are rested? But it will be really tricky to get the balance between making sure we're strong enough and ready enough for FA Cup game and also for the league. So yeah, I don't think it's ideal, let's be honest, but I trust in Marco to make the changes that he thinks he should. And like we've said, we've got depth in our squad. I know we've got injuries, but hopefully we'll have Traore back in, Lukic will be back in, and we'll have a bit more depth in that sense. And Sess is coming up again now, and so I think there'll be options if he wants to rotate, but it's not ideal.
Yeah, I will say something that I find really interesting is they had to reschedule, I believe it was the Southampton game for the Cup. So it's not like this run is necessarily coming as a surprise. Obviously, you probably would have been able to rotate against Southampton in the league as opposed to, Palace in the quarterfinals of the Cup. But this is practice for Europe. This is what we're going to have to do if we're all talking about going to Europe. We're going to have 3 games in 7 days. So I think Marco's always been good at rotating the squad. But I think he's probably looked at this period in the calendar and gone, okay, so we got Liverpool and Arsenal back-to-back. Like he's probably not super happy about that, but it's probably been something that he's been thinking about for a decent amount of time just because of the fact that we always had a game on that Saturday anyway.
No, exactly. And to be honest, I echo your points. It is what it is, and that's, I'm going to say it's football. It seems to only be English football, but the fixture congestion, which foreign managers always complain about. But hey, the reason it's happening is because you're doing well, and it should be something which we should embrace because it might not happen very often. So I think we just got to go with what we can at that point. But the one thing I forgot to say, so the previous question, we did have an answer on X from Roger Southgate, Townsend Senior to his friends.
Go on, Dad.
Do you know what? I can't not read this, but without feeling a bit of hurt in here. But he says, reach and win the cup final. I was there when we lost to West Ham and Middlesbrough the following season. We lost the Anglo-Scottish Cup final over 2 legs to them. So that is a man who has witnessed typical Fulham failure. So if we don't, win the FA Cup for our fans, just win it for Roger, man. He's been through it. He's been through the wars.
We're here for you, Dad. We're here for you.
That's it. I feel like we should put like a helpline on screen as well. If you've been affected by what Roger has talked about, by losing to West Ham and Middlesbrough in those cup finals, reach out to us. There are people who can help you.
Mary, will Roger get the matching tattoo with Skibby?
No, he won't be doing that. I'll get him on the baby Guinnesses though.
Love it.
Oh yeah. I think that's going to be a dangerous new trend, that one.
Brilliant. Was there any more, Skibby?
They were the questions we had.
Well, look, I think that's probably a wrap then. I really enjoyed talking with you guys tonight about everything. Man United, about Brighton.
I do apologise. There was one in the Discord.
Oh, was there? Oh, come on. Let's do one more.
And this one is directly for Mike, because I can't answer this, and I don't think you two can either. But this is, why is Fulham Boston the best Full America group? Definitely not lost by one of Mike Levy's co-conspirators.
Yeah.
So why is it the best?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really cool about Fulham Boston is, as I said, we really came together because we love the Carabao Cup run. It was one of those things where the energy is absolutely there. We're all up at 10 a.m. Eastern to go watch matches together, have a great time. We take over about a third of the bar, which is pretty funny. And it's just a good time. We get a massive screen. We get the sounds on in the bar. It's a great way to start a weekend. And especially when Fulham pull off a win, it's a great way to start things off. So absolutely, if you're in the Boston area, you can reach out to us on all our socials. We're Fulham Boston everywhere. Please, absolutely reach out, join us. We are so excited to continue to see this grow. Actually, if we have a minute, I have a fun question for all three of you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I did not prep them.
Always.
So, since I'm on the podcast, I feel like I have to ask. We started this off by talking about hopefully Jedi has another couple years with us. But continuing the full America trend, I'm not sure if I'm putting you all on the spot. You know, any American players, who would you want to continue the trend for full America for us? Obviously, we shouldn't buy players just based off nationality, but still, with Ream gone, we should be thinking about.
Who's the striker? The young striker? Is he playing in Holland at the moment?
Ricardo Pepi.
Yeah, I think it would be him. I think there's a player there, and I think that he'd be a good asset and be a good, he's kind of got the profile that Marco wants in a striker. So, yeah, Pepi would be my pick.
Like it.
I feel like we could make a good song about him as well. I feel like that. I can't work it out at the moment, but
there's something there, isn't there?
There's something there. I'll leave it to Skippy. I'm sure you were on the songs before.
I'm sure we could get something. I mean, Pepe's a great shout. I was calling for him in January. I mean, but then part of me is thinking the obvious, just because in a conversation with Dave quite recently, we were saying about how we're quite comfortable in a way with strikers. I think there's still a great striker in Muniz, and I don't think we should sort of affect that. But what we are missing is that real goal threat winger, and I think Pulisic would be fantastic. I mean, he is obviously like, it's such a cop-out in a way, because it's like, do you know what? I love to be that kind of niche guy that goes like, oh, in my Football Manager save, I had this 17-year-old US player. But I think Pulisic is exactly what we need in that kind of goal-getting winger and someone with Premier League experience, which Marco loves. And, it would be a real kick to the neighbours, because they couldn't really get the best out of him. So it'd be lovely for us to make him this fantastic player, which they missed out on. But I do feel like that would be a bit of a stretch, given I think he's doing quite well at AC Milan right now. So
very well. Yeah.
Great question.
Mary,
that's the question.
Pardon?
Does Mary have one?
I've got none to add. But I do want to say I just really don't want to lose Anthony Robinson.
I don't want Porto to be the one continuing the full America trend for us.
Yeah. Well, look, fingers crossed. If we can get into Europe, I think we've got a better chance of Robinson staying personally. Yeah, that's the way to go. So, okay. So look, brilliant to talk to you guys. It's been great to have people following and sending in comments as well in the group.
Can I have one ask?
Oh yeah, sure, please.
For Fulham Boston and for all these international groups, on match days in our Discord, we have like a match day section. Can we just get like a picture of all you guys or something, so it just feels like we're part of it as well? I want to be in Magoon Saloon.
Yeah.
But just these little kind of snippets of we're watching the game in this bar, little selfie. You don't even have to be in the Discord that long, but that would be fantastic to see. So that's just a little ask from me.
I think Dave was popping up a couple pictures of us throughout the podcast. Yeah.
I'll go back and find it. There is a good one we had at the start, which I didn't select. There we go.
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
That's a good one. Yeah. So we definitely want to be doing that. There are, I think, 17 groups in the U.S. now, and we're continuing to grow. It's a great place. I would recommend that if you're in the States, look for the one near you. They're all around the country. I think we had 3 new ones. I think we had Portland join recently and Seattle. So, there are people getting up at the wee hours of the morning, similar to y'all, getting maybe a little bit later for them. It's definitely one of those things where find the group in your area. It's much better than watching alone.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
Absolutely awesome. And Mike, are you a member of our Discord?
I think I'm going to have to be after this, huh?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Come and join us. It's just a great place for kind of, Fulham fans to interact without all the noise on X and, that can sometimes get in the way. So, we've got a really great community in there. So I encourage everyone to jump in and get involved. And
I think everybody's going to hate you because I'm going to always talk about how Tom Kearney always needs to be on in the 70th minute. Shout out to Mike Chmielewski, who has to listen to me every single week talk about how this is the game for Kearney to come on and score a screamer. And unfortunately, I watched the Spurs game with the Fulham DC group. I love them, and I was down there for the time. But the one time I was right, I wasn't even there for it. Granted, I didn't have to talk about the red card either. So that's a separate thing altogether.
No, look, I think a lot of fans would agree with you. So I think you'll be you'll be a welcome addition for sure. So look, we'll be back again on Sunday, I believe, reviewing the game against Brighton. So put that one in your calendar. Look forward to that. And I'd just like to thank you guys for joining. Skibby, great to have you back.
Great to be back. Great to have a couple of beers and learn about a bar I need to visit in Boston. So I learned something tonight. So there we go. I'm happy.
Always
and the
love.
baby Guinnesses as well. So
And
that's
the
going
baby
to be a thing.
Guinness.
Yeah.
Always love.
If only we had one now to sign off with. That would have been a great way to end the show. But Mary, thanks for having you as always.
Thanks. It's been good. It's been good. Good laugh. We've talked about loads of different things today. Nice to catch up with Mike. And I am looking forward to getting my mum and dad involved in the old baby Guinness on the next Fulham win, which hopefully will be this weekend. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the actual lineup is, because I feel like there's so many different combinations for this weekend with the people that are out. So lots to look forward to, but it's been an enjoyable evening.
Great. And Mike, what a pleasure to have you on. Yeah, as you said, people, please subscribe to the Fulham Boston socials and follow these guys, because they are flying the flag for Fulham out there and doing an amazing job. Thanks very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you all for having me. Absolutely. Let's do this again. I'm rooting for a big win this weekend and a cup run. And I will be making my way over, whether it's for a Premier League match this year or if we make it to Wembley. I am absolutely getting ready, and I already have my passport up to date for next season.
Brilliant. Well, you got to let us know when you're over, and we'll get those baby Guinnesses flowing.
Love it.
So thanks again for everyone for joining us. And Mary, you going to see us out?
Yeah, thank you all for being here tonight. You right.